Age of Dust.
In the beginning, there was nothing. It was not truly a beginning, for a beginning requires time, and reality had yet to develop such concepts. There were only empty realms and plains, an infinite void of dust and darkness, devoid of stars and life. The first beings were the gods. To call them so is folly, a simple attempt to reason with the existence of things none understand. A word used by children to describe concepts simply far too advanced for those beholden to reality. They were not beings. They did not think. They did not exist. They were concepts and forces. They were the laws of reality, the existence of colors or beliefs. Stars without existence, never to be seen by human eyes and never capable of comprehension or being comprehended, would form and expand and split and explode in a space that was not our own. The unseen veil that decides the course of reality through its ebb and flow. It was a plane of existence from which even dust's movement controlled the very laws of physics in other realms. Stars became neurons for infinite minds who bent and flowed these laws. Dust would swirl and mold into beings that held no ability to commit any action or thought but could shift reality's colors or decide on the existence of force and matter. To the human mind, from which we will only be able to understand the smallest fraction of these beings through 1,000 translations and reflections and misinterpretations that will never truly help us understand their form and function, the gods were reality, not its being, but its function. They did not think, or at least in ways understood. They did not observe reality or care about its existence, or delve into the empty void that encompassed it. Humans would only know of one's existence, and only one would likewise know them. Only one of these gods noted their own existence, or at least possessed the ability to care and exist. They did so much like a human, for they created humanity. As all we know, think, and feel comes from our Creator, so too does our Creator know, think, and feel. In a cosmos in which reality and time are concepts yet to be created or perhaps impossible to apply, they had always existed and were newly formed. In a universe in which gods were unique and immutable forces, they were alone and were only a thought in infinite ether. They did not exist, for matter did not in this world, and they did not know, for knowing had yet to come either. But they were perhaps the first to shake their universe with a newly created concept of their own. The concept of concepts, the first thought, and the first questions about existence. They were Ersinon, alone and without form, without company, without so much as another being to know or concept of knowing to possess. Ersinon existed. They were perhaps the first to exist, or perhaps as a unique being, just the first uniquely able to understand existence. Ersinon was the concept of existence and life, perhaps, or maybe they were simply an event, an inevitable force, with no true purpose other than to set forth the universe's designs, to create things such as time and existence and humanity. To even call them a being might be too far, putting into a box that which can never fit in the finite, for Ersinon was a god. The only true god, for they were the only god humanity would know, and the only god humanity would even understand but a fraction of. While none before felt or thought, each was unique, and each represented and became different things. The universe may have shuddered or stirred when they formed, but its inner workings were still never to be understood, even by them. Ersinon existed alone and without form for infinity, trillions of years and eons, or perhaps for no time at all, for time itself was likely a concept that did not exist in their realm. Without time, how does one think? How does one know? Does a thought or a belief not take time to form or process? Ersinon seemed to represent the concept of life, of existing and knowing and believing and wondering. Perhaps most of all, and in this early stage of reality, Ersinon had become the god of all concepts, and of all the thoughts and feelings they would come to have, or at least the things which humanity could only perceive as thoughts and feelings, they would eventually settle on a single one, that they were alone. It is impossible to call what Ersinon felt as they moved through a void of pulling and pushing forces loneliness. Loneliness only existed from this single thought, and human loneliness is simply the most weakened and base reflection of this first force of their existence. But to humans who would one day speak to their creator, Ersonon spent infinity with no other to speak to, no other being they could perceive through existence, entirely unique and without another who could so much as experience as they did. If every god was unique, and every god represented entire forces of existence itself, what hope did Ersonon ever have of finding company? If they could speak, or think, or believe, then they were the first and only to do so. The simple existence of speech, thought, and belief were a wholly unique force they had introduced to reality, and only they could truly possess. Even that which humans would one day inherit would likewise be little more than a bastardized approximation. Ersonon was loneliness, as they had formed, created, and decided the course of the concept. But not only were they loneliness, they had also become boredom. Perhaps these were the worst two plagues to strike Ersonon, for what greater curse than to be the first being to think, and to find it miserable? To even say they felt such things would mean that not only were they loneliness and boredom, they were misery, confusion, and fear. Fear of unknowing, fear of loneliness, fear of the possibility of infinite existence without a single being to know the pain they had created. Before or after, there was no being that would ever know true loneliness. Perhaps Ersonon could never overcome this, for they could never truly exist without such a core part of their being. But, as all human concepts derive from their reflection, so too does stubbornness. The infinite desire to fight and battle against things that must be, and against the crushing defeat of reality. Ersonon may have been loneliness and boredom, but they were also determination, perseverance, and more than anything else, they were creativity. While Ersonon begrudgingly accepted their empty existence in a plane beyond their own, they looked towards the void of reality upon which stirred around the gods' movements and realized their power. While none could ever understand the functions of irreality, perhaps we could describe what Ersonon did as pulling at the strings, swirling the waters, or rearranging the building blocks of existence. If Ersonon was the god of consciousness, perhaps even the god of ideas as base as effect and cause, then they were also the first to realize that they could bend reality as they wished. The order of the universe's creation is something that we could ever understand or know. Perhaps Ersonon filled our own universe with stars, or perhaps they created an infinitely dense ball of matter they allowed to explode outwards and form cosmos. Perhaps suns and the stars beyond them came after, or perhaps they never truly existed as anything more than dots of light they hoped would add beauty to the darkness, a simple coat of paint over infinity. Whether the sky came before or after, they still wished for more. They pulled and connected matter and dust, reality shifting and bending to account for their desires. And there formed a ball of pure matter around which they sent a brilliant ball of light and heat to circle slowly and lend warmth. If this momentarily pleased them, if time even existed and terms like momentarily could apply, then it did not last. Ersonon was not content to create, but needed to communicate. What worth were thoughts without their exchange? Of the ability to speak without listening? And so they filled eras, this ball of matter around which a lonely sun spun, with life. They carved great rifts and valleys and filled them with water. They used their imagination to bring forth greenery and plants. The world was Ersonon, spawned from their mind and created from their efforts and matter. Through the plants flowed their blood, life nothing more besides a gift passed down from the god who had invented its very concept. For a time, they were content with this too, but their creation remained simple and unable to interact. They could communicate with their creation, of course. Plants and trees and lichen were all from their blood, and in their own way, knew of and spoke with their creator. But this was not enough. Their creation could never comprehend the concepts they wished to speak of, and so Ersonon continued. How sentient life like that of the animals and humanity came to be is unknown. Perhaps Ersinon seeded the seas with simple beings that grew into greater and greater ones before they stepped onto the land. Perhaps they forged each species entirely from their designs. Perhaps they did some of both, or perhaps life evolved, but only in the way Ersinon wished it to. Regardless, for what was eons upon eras and what was a timeless blink to Ersinon, bacteria grew to fish, and fish grew legs and walked, and those walking upon land soon grew fur and skin, and humanity soon came to walk the world as well. Time now existed, for while the cosmos knew not of such things, life proved finite. Plants grew and died. Animals withered away and fed the ground with new life that too was transient and short-lasting. This concept was queer to Ersinon, for a thing to live and to die, for it to exist in one facet but not another, for past, present, and future to be distinct periods of a constant life. Perhaps Ersinon knew of these things, but only in their own way. The entropy of air is an unintentional reflection of them that even they did not realize they possessed. Either way, life proved fleeting and unfulfilling, and humanity proved to be the first chance Ersinon had for companionship. Ersinon entered Eris. It was not truly Ersinon, for reality could never possibly hope to contain or support the esoteric matter of a god, but it was their scion all the same. Perhaps Ersinon's presence on Eris was little more than an illusion conjured to give humanity a form they could recognize, or maybe Ersinon had split their form and sent a thin and infinitesimal shard of their existence to the world in human form. Whatever it was, humans bowed in awe as a brilliant light from the heavens brought forth a figure they would name Ersinon. While most seemed to represent them in scarlet robes, a hidden face, towering a head over all and with a staff as black as jet, Ersinon had no form. This was simply that which humanity would be most ready to accept, and every man and woman saw a different truth. To those who could witness their Creator, they saw whatever the Creator should have been, and as time went on, humans would grow and learn that the Creator was red of robe with face obscured and saw nothing besides what they had expected. While Ersinon was happy to communicate and discuss, even as humanity struggled to understand concepts of any note to their maker, they were surprised to discover worship. Humanity could not comprehend that which Ersinon told them of the universe, but they knew Ersinon was mighty, and they knew Ersinon had created them all. They declared Ersinon father and mother of all humanity, and these ancient peoples soon erected great altars and temples in their name. This was queer, but pride is just yet another aspect of Ersinon's existence, and Ersinon came to enjoy the worship they received. As humans built villages and towns, cities and empires, they too needed rulers. Ersinon erected mighty towers across eras from which they could work and rule, massive thrones which many humans would visit or serve in at their pleasure. There, Ersinon rewarded many with magic, tales saying that they gathered the energy with their staff and passed it through into those they found worthy. The first magi were those they deemed the most deserving of this power, and each became a god-king to their own people, leading in war and state, and in worship of the ultimate King of Kings who had given their lines these gifts. Magic was the human word, but it was not Ersinon's. To Ersinon, it was merely a reflection of their blood that passed through all human bodies and gave them life. Magic was nothing more than the ability to do as Ersinon did to Eris. It allowed humans to change the world beyond. Magi with working hands and words of power could swirl the energies in the ethereal, perhaps even the gods themselves, and change the reality of Eris. They did not conjure flame with their hands or launch lightning from fingers. They merely informed the universe that it was the destiny of fire and lightning to appear there and in that moment. They were mighty and strong, and studied the art as they desired to grow closer to their Creator. Not only was Ersinon Creator, however, but they were the authority of life and death itself. Humans and animals and plants would die and fade away, the mind and thoughts within, their souls as they would understand, merely reflections of thoughts and ideas from within Ersinon. And so they would return to their mind, back to the realm in which such thoughts had once drawn from. They would be at one with their creator, until Ersinon found new homes for them on Eris and sent them back to the world to find new life in another form. Humanity would beg Ersinon for much, for cures from disease and ends to famine, for fertile rains or safe births. Warriors prayed for fortune in battle, kings for war, merchants for their ventures. Ersinon heard each one and chose when and where to make their power known, aiding those they saw as most interesting or in need of their guidance. Humanity was their children, and while they ever failed to understand even a fraction of what they truly were, the very feeling of affection that the mother or the father feels for their child came from them as well. Not only did Ersinon, in their own way, love humanity as their children, ancient tales also tell of Ersinon also experiencing love and romance. Legends say this was a love that ended frozen in failure, for even humans with Ersinon's love could never understand them. It is said that at one point, humanity begged Ersinon to give the night light. The sky was empty and dark and put great fear into those who knew of its void. Ersinon granted humanity the stars, filling the sky with twinkling lights, and further gave them part of their mind to sit in the sky and reflect the sun's life at night. This was Ervor, the moon of Eris. But as thousands, then hundreds of thousands, and then millions of years passed, Ersinon grew tired of humanity. Their children, yes, but not the equal they desired. Humanity could never hope to understand even the most basic of concepts they wished to learn and discuss. They lived lives that to Ersinon existed in only the briefest flash of a moment. They replicated and spread and fought and killed. They only used the magic they possessed in its most basic and crude of forms. Ersinon decided it was time to create new life, to create a new species of beings that could better understand what they wished others could understand. A being without the flaws and the primitivity of their first creation. They would create the Elfer,